In 1900, divers found a wooden ship off a Greek island, and inside it, something that shouldn't have existed for another 1,000 years. The wreck lay 140 feet down, off Antikythera, a rocky island between Crete and the mainland. A sponge diving crew working in April of that year spotted it by accident. What they didn't know, what nobody could know, was that they were about to pull up the most advanced piece of engineering the ancient world had produced, and then lose it again to time. Here's the question that matters. What would you do if you found something that contradicted everything you believed about an entire civilization? The divers didn't have time to consider it. They were working under pressure, literally. Decompression sickness was a death sentence, so they grabbed what they could. Bronze statues, pottery, coins, and a corroded lump that looked like nothing in particular. For decades, that lump sat in a museum in Athens. Nobody knew what it was. The cost of studying it was high. You'd need to break it apart, destroy it potentially, just to see what lay inside. So they didn't. It stayed in a drawer, a decision made under uncertainty by men with incomplete information. Sound familiar? In the 1950s, a scientist named Derek de Sala Price decided to take that risk. He X-rayed the corroded mass. What emerged was impassable, a system of bronze gears, 30 of them, interlocking, precision cut. This wasn't a toy. This was an orrery, a mechanical model of the cosmos itself. The mechanism could predict eclipses. It tracked the movement of the sun, moon, and planets with mathematical precision. Archaeologists had to recalibrate their entire understanding of antiquity. The Greeks weren't primitive. They were sophisticated engineers. This device was built around 100 BC, and nothing like it appeared again until the medieval period, over 1,000 years later. But here's what gets lost in the excitement. That knowledge disappeared. The Antikythera mechanism wasn't a beginning, it was an ending. It was a masterpiece from a world that fell. The ship that carried it sank. The civilization that built it fragmented. The technology vanished. All that remained was rust and silence. This is where the Stoics enter the story. Marcus Aurelius never saw the Antikythera mechanism. It was buried for nearly 2,000 years after his death, but he understood something about it intuitively. He wrote, "Time is a river of passing events. Everything flows, everything decays. Even the greatest works of human ingenuity return to dust." The Stoics called this impermanence, the doctrine of *Anika*. Nothing lasts, your career, your reputation, your creations. The Antikythera mechanism was built by someone who believed it would survive. It nearly did 2,000 years in the ocean, but then it was lost anyway. And when it was found, the world that made it was already gone. So what does this mean for you, sitting in your office, worried about your next promotion, about the project you're building, about leaving a legacy? The Stoic answer is this: the impermanence isn't a reason to despair. It's a reason to shift your focus. You can't control whether your work survives. You can't control whether the world remembers your name. These outcomes lie outside your sphere of influence. What you can control is the quality of your effort today, the integrity of your decisions, the kindness you extend, the skill you develop. The builder of the Antikythera mechanism couldn't have predicted that his work would vanish, be discovered, and then redefine history. He couldn't have known any of that. He only knew what was in front of him, the bronze, the problem to solve, the precision required. He did that work anyway. That's the Stoic move. You don't build for immortality. You build because building is the right thing to do in that moment. You work with excellence not because you'll be remembered, but because excellence is within your control and mediocrity isn't. The ocean took the Antikythera mechanism for 2 millennia. It will take everything you build eventually. That's not a failure of your work. That's the nature of existence. The Stoic doesn't fight impermanence. He accepts it and acts anyway. Here's what changes when you really internalize this. You stop chasing outcomes you can't control. You stop waiting for permission or perfect conditions. You stop delaying the work because you're afraid it won't matter. It might not matter. Do it anyway. The diver who grabbed that corroded lump in 1900 didn't know he was holding the key to a lost civilization. He was just doing his job under pressure with incomplete information. 2,000 years later, that decision mattered immensely, but he couldn't have known that. He only knew what was in front of him. You're doing the same thing right now. You're making decisions under pressure with incomplete information. You have no idea which of your actions will echo forward, which relationships will matter, which skills you're building will become crucial. So stop waiting to know. act with excellence in the present, and release attachment to the outcome. The Antikythera mechanism teaches us this. Your greatest works might be lost, your name might be forgotten, the world you build might collapse, and that's okay, because the point was never the permanence. The point was the building itself, the integrity, the skill, the effort. That's what stays with you. That's what's real. So when you're overwhelmed by modern life, by the pressure to succeed, to be remembered, to matter, remember that the ancient Greeks built machines of impossible precision and then lost them entirely. And when those machines were found, they still mattered, not because they survived, but because they were built right. Do you work with that standard? The outcome isn't yours to control. The effort is. Subscribe to keep getting these lessons from history, where Stoic wisdom meets the decisions people actually made under pressure.